Thank you so much. It's like a really incredible honor to be preceded by London and Anastasia and Zidane. London and Zidane specifically are have been so impactful in my life. I doubt myself in almost every single breath that I take, and they have been two very reassuring voices throughout. Thank you, Quiet Lightning. To live a life in 15 years is impressive. To organize for that long is short of a miracle. So, congratulations. Thank you for welcoming me and all the readers. A quick overview of kind of what I'm about to do. I have been trying to figure out for a long time how to manage readings. I don't know, trying to figure it out. And one of the things that I've ultimately settled on is that I will tell my story. I'm not going to read the story. So this is a work that is from the novel that I've been working on for the last 3 years, and I'm going to tell the story and to the best of my ability. So. I grew up playing music, and when you're nervous before playing music, you can go behind stage and be like something like that. But you can't do that here because people are reading quietly. So okay, all right. Vartan is not like the other kids. He's small, he's quiet, he's kind of to himself. The other kids are true kids of the mountains. They scream into the valleys. They have been playing up and down the hills their entire lives, so their legs are full of muscle and solid. They wrestle each other down to the ground. They like that. Vartan doesn't really like that. When Vartan was only a baby, he lost his brother and he lost his father. It's about 1905. The Russians took his brother and father along with a bunch of other people in the village and placed them into a battalion to fight what would be an unarchived and unnamed skirmish in the mountains of the Caucasus, and they were lost there. His mother, shortly after this, because of her distress of losing her firstborn and her husband, walked out of their home in the winter in a freezing night and never returned. So Vartan becomes a son to the village. He becomes a brother to all. He becomes a cousin to all. But this comes with certain responsibilities. He ends up helping, doing chores around the village. He helps, for instance, Mari braid aveluk, which is an herb that is used to cook. Helps her braid it. They hang it from the ceilings. He helps, I forget his name, Gardno, shepherd his sheep when the evening comes. And he helps the elders, like Oshik, clear their cesspools when they get too full and they're not able to clear it themselves. And he's good at these responsibilities. He's solid at it. So over time, as he grows up, as he goes into his, 10s, 11s, 12s, people respect him for what he does. So he's doing chores all around. They say, Vartan, can you come here? I have dents in my pans and I'm busy today. Can you get the pan dents out? Okay. Vartan, we need somebody to stir the cheese. Vartan, we need your help. So he's going around all the time. It seems like every single day he's got more and more to do, right? Going from one place to another to another. So Vartan, what he likes to do, he likes to help. He wants to be useful. But what he likes to do to get away sometimes is to wander. He wanders from the village, allows himself to escape. He feels a little guilty about it because he knows that he's needed. But he needs his time to wander. Sometimes when he wanders, he stays there until the sun starts going down, and this is when he looks at his village. And what he sees are the mountains. But they're not like mountains, they're like jagged spires, like columns, rock columns. And in these rock columns, among it, are thousands of homes that are embedded into the rock, into the caves, both man-made, natural-made. This is the village of Khunzoresk. And Khunzoresk is in the southernmost region of Armenia to this day. So he would watch it, and he looks at it, and he watches the sun go down. And when the sun goes down, the mountains turn purple. They look like broken teeth almost. And all the houses that have people in it, when they light their fires, the whole mountainside becomes speckled with orange lights. So one day, Vartan is walking and leaves the village. He wants to wander. He's thinking about different things. Maybe he's thinking about a song that his mom used to sing, or maybe he's trying to remember her voice. But he wanders farther than he's ever wandered before. And he wanders so far that unknowingly he enters into the territory of a leopard. And just as he enters into the territory of the leopard, he smells something. It smells like honey, jasmines, urine, but not really like honey, more like rotten honey, more like sour old urine, maybe more like dried musty jasmine. He can't figure it out. He's never smelled this before. So he's smelling and he's intrigued by this. So he wants to follow the smell. So he walks and he's smelling. And he's getting closer to the smell. And he's smelling. And everywhere he goes to a tree. Smells over here. Okay, it's over here. So he walks over in this direction. As he walks in this direction, the leopard follows. Leopards are talented in being unseen. Leopards are talented in being unheard. And so he goes over to a rock. He's getting closer. He can smell it. The urine, the honey, the jasmine, they're starting to mold into one, right? Smells are starting to disappear. It's becoming stronger. He goes to a rock, smells, okay, it's over here. Leopard comes after him right as soon as he leaves. He walks. He's starting to smell this smell so intensely that it begins to fill the air. He starts to feel the smell on his skin. It's starting to turn humid. And he's going, and it's getting stronger and stronger until he enters into a clearing in the middle of the forest. Let me quickly say, he was on a trail before and entered into a gully where it's thick with trees. But eventually he makes his way into a perfectly circular clearing. And the canopies of the trees arch over it, so it's almost as if he's in a dome. Can we see this? And in the center of this circular clearing, there is a walnut tree. One walnut tree. And at the base of the walnut tree is a pile of rotten fruit. He says, okay, this is where the smell is coming from. He smells it. It's very strong. Makes his way towards it. As he's walking towards it, he starts to notice something about this pile of fruit. He starts to notice that it actually vaguely resembles a body. He can see legs splayed out. He can see arms by its side. He can see a head on top of the torso. He goes up close to it. It's not a body. It's old rotten fruit made of old rotten walnuts that are so rotten they've blackened. And they're covered with a coat of slime and mold. But what more is he looks close at it, and on every part of this body, there are thousands and thousands of tiny mouths that are opening and closing, and opening and closing and breathing. And every time it breathes out, he can smell the smell. What would you do in this situation? You're going to want to feel this body, right? He's a curious little kid, right? Right? We're touching this body. Vartan's touching this body. Remember, he's different. He's a little different. So he kneels down and he touches this body. And the moment his finger touches the fruit, he's no longer Vartan. Everything inside of him is thrust out of his body. He's put instead on the edge of all of time expanding. All at once he understands all of the past. He understands all of the future. He sees all things at once. He understands the ultimate essence of everything without language. He doesn't understand just how a rock became a rock, but instead he understands why a rock. He doesn't understand how a tree grows, but he understands the language of the trees, the whispers in the wind. He understands everything at once. And in this moment, he also sees a vision of his village empty. Every cave vacated, his whole family gone, and he too gone. But he also understands in this vision, in this moment, that there's catastrophe going around. In the north, the Russian Empire is collapsing. There's this little party called the Bolsheviks coming up. The Ottomans in the west are collapsing. A little party called the Young Turks. And he sees that in decades from this point, a man named Stalin, who he doesn't know, but he knows at the same time, has moved everybody in the name of developmentalism, right? Moving them from the caves to the plateau higher above so that everybody has now moved from the old ways of life into the new ways of life. This is what he sees. But in that move, they lose all that they ever had, the ways of the cave, the ways of the mountain. And so, becoming aware of this, he decides in a moment he needs to warn the village. He sees this village of, his brothers, his cousins, the fathers of the village all being rounded up and sent off to fight the front lines of wars that they are not necessarily directly affected by. So he needs to warn them. And in this moment, he becomes aware of this. He's spit out from this body. He comes into the body. He comes into his own body. He's looking around himself, and for the first time, he feels, I have something that I need to go and I need to tell to the village. And then there is this weight right on his right shoulder. It's a weight that is so intense, he's slammed down to the ground. And then he feels his skin stretching on his shoulders. And he feels the weight of what's a rock breathe a hot breath and drop a drip of saliva onto his neck. And the leopard leans over to the back of his head and places its canines and bites into his skull and drags Vartan to the body and drops him into it. And this is where the walnuts and the body envelope him, and he becomes covered into this tree, and he takes with him all of the time and becomes the edge. Thank you.